So, have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, why do I have my mother's eyes? Or my dad's smile? It's a question that people have been asking for, well, forever. Today, we're going to go on a journey to figure it out, starting in a quiet little garden and ending up right inside our own DNA.
I mean, it seems so obvious, doesn't it? An elephant has a baby elephant. A mango seed grows into a mango tree. But what's the invisible blueprint that makes sure it happens that way every single time? That simple question, that's the heart of heredity, and it's exactly where our story kicks off.
For thousands of years, this puzzle of likeness fascinated everyone. People knew kids looked like their parents, and that animals had babies that looked like them, but the actual rules of the game? A complete and total mystery.
Okay, so first things first, let's get our terms straight. You've got inheritance and heredity. Think of it like this. Inheritance is the process. It's the act of passing down the family recipe. Heredity is the result. It's the fact that you have your grandmother's famous cookies. Inheritance is the how, heredity is the what.
And what's so wild is that long before anyone knew the science, our ancestors were basically pros at genetics. For millennia, they were picking the best crops, breeding the strongest animals. They were using the rules of inheritance without even knowing the rules existed. They were playing the game without the instruction manual.
The first real clues to solving this ancient mystery didn't come from a fancy university or a high-tech lab. Nope, they came from the quiet garden of an Augustinian monk. So, let's meet our first great genetic detective.
Gregor Mendel's secret weapon wasn't a microscope, it was math. For 7 straight years, he wasn't just looking at his pea plants, he was counting them, by the thousands. Now, this was completely unheard of in biology at the time. He brought statistics into the garden, and he kept it simple, focusing only on really clear-cut traits, like a plant being either tall or dwarf, with nothing in between. So check out his most famous experiment. He takes a pure tall plant and crosses it with a pure dwarf plant. And what does he get? All tall plants, every single one. It was like the dwarf trait had just vanished. But, and here's where the magic happens, he then let those new tall plants reproduce. And in the next generation, poof, the dwarf trait was back. And it wasn't random. It always showed up in this perfect 3-to-1 ratio. That predictable pattern, that was everything.
This led Mendel to a truly brilliant insight. He realized that traits weren't just blending together like paint. No, they were controlled by these invisible factors, what we now call alleles. And the tall factor was dominant. It was like the loudest voice in the room. It always won out if it was there. The dwarf factor was recessive. It was more like a secret instruction, only showing up if a plant got 2 copies of it.
This little grid, the Punnett Square, is the perfect way to see that math in action. The letters on the top and side, that's what each parent can pass down. And the boxes show you all the possible combos for the kids. And it reveals this hidden layer, right? The phenotype, that's what you can physically see, is 3 tall plants for every 1 dwarf plant. But the genotype, the actual genetic code, shows that 2 of those tall plants are secretly carrying that hidden dwarf gene.
So from this, Mendel basically wrote the first 2 rules for the game of heredity. First, the law of dominance. One factor can mask another one. And second, the law of segregation. When a plant makes its reproductive cells, its 2 factors have to split up, so each new cell only gets 1 copy to pass on. And that's exactly why that hidden dwarf trait could suddenly reappear later.
Mendel had figured out the rules, but he had no idea what the game pieces were. He called them factors, but he couldn't actually point to anything inside a cell and say, "There, that's it." And because of that, his amazing work was pretty much ignored for decades.
Yeah, believe it or not, the scientific world just wasn't ready for Mendel. His ideas were too weird, too mathematical. It took 35 years for his work to be rediscovered. And here's the key. By then, technology had finally caught up. Scientists could suddenly see inside cells with powerful new microscopes like never before.
And this slide right here, this shows the huge aha moment that connected all the dots. While scientists were looking through these new microscopes, they saw these little thread-like things called chromosomes, and they noticed something incredible. The way these chromosomes behaved was exactly the same as how Mendel's described his factors behaving. They came in pairs, they split up during reproduction. The parallel was just undeniable. Mendel's invisible factors had to be on these chromosomes.
But of course, you need that final, definitive proof. And that confirmation came from, well, the humble fruit fly. Thomas Hunt Morgan's experiments in his famous fly room provided the hard evidence that locked it all together.
He officially proved the chromosomal theory of inheritance and linked Mendel's math to the actual physical stuff of life.
Okay, so you think the case was closed, right? We found the rules, we found the game pieces, but as scientists dug deeper, they realized the story had some really fascinating plot twists. Mendel's rules were the foundation, for sure, but they weren't the whole story.
So it turns out, not all alleles play by that simple dominant/recessive rule. Sometimes they just meet in the middle. Take snapdragon flowers. You cross a red one with a white one, and you don't get red flowers, you get pink. It's kind of like mixing paint. This is called incomplete dominance.
And then you have cases where there's no blending at all. Instead, both traits just show up at the exact same time. We call this codominance, and maybe the best example of it is right in our own bodies, our blood types.
This chart shows it perfectly. See, the A and the B alleles for blood type, they're codominant. So if you inherit an A allele from one parent and a B from the other, your blood type isn't some in-between mix. It's AB. Both traits, A and B, are fully and equally expressed on your blood cells.
Now, this whole journey from pea plants to human blood isn't just a history lesson. Understanding these principles has a massive real-world impact on how we understand and treat human diseases.
Generally speaking, when our genetics go wrong, it happens in one of two main ways. You can have Mendelian disorders, which are like having a single tiny typo in the recipe book of one gene. Then you have chromosomal disorders, which are much bigger mistakes, like a whole chapter being duplicated or completely torn out of the book.
And a lot of times, those typo disorders are caused by something called a point mutation. And get this. It's a change in just one single letter out of the 3 billion letters that make up our entire genome. It's almost unbelievably small.
And the effect of that one wrong letter can be absolutely devastating. Take sickle cell anemia. A single letter change in the hemoglobin gene, GAG, becomes GUG, and that's it. That tiny typo changes one building block of a protein, which causes red blood cells to warp into that sickle shape, leading to a lifetime of health issues, all from one letter.
Now, by contrast, a chromosomal disorder like Down syndrome isn't a single typo. Using our book analogy, it's like an entire extra chapter. A whole third copy of chromosome 21 gets accidentally inserted into your genetic library.
So just think about that. We've gone from a monk patiently counting peas in a garden to understanding the very code of human disease. It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest revolutions start with the simplest questions. Mendel opened a door that changed the world. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What new doors will the next generation unlock?